Hi, I'm Thaddeus McCotter. I'm a recovering politician, current guitar player. If you have an event, please let me know. I will play for food. And right now, I'm a guest on the All Over the Place podcast, where the fun sanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place. I'm your host, Eric Portvoznik. And folks, as always, we thank you so much for listening, watching, wherever platform you are, whether it's Spotify or YouTube, Amazon, iHeartRadio. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And don't forget, though, to link, share, subscribe. Link. How about we like, share, and subscribe? Link. What am I talking about here? All these L words. But we appreciate everything, folks. As we continue to grow, we appreciate the support, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with at least one person today. And Jim Culver is back in the house. Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm good. And just for the record, I'm fine if people want to link us as well.
I whatever it takes to keep growing our audience. I'm not
exactly.
And with us today, folks, we have a special guest. Jim and I, as we've mentioned on the show before, we are practicing Catholics. And we have with us today a very special guest from the Tepeyac leadership. And Chris Pereyra, welcome to All Over the Place. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's an honor.
Well, we thank you for being here. But for our lay listeners and for our non-Catholic audiences, and for our Catholic and Christians, please give us a little bit. Give us the insight into Tepeyac leadership, what it's all about.
Sure, I'll give you the very brief synopsis. So about 8 years ago, I was working at the Diocese of Phoenix for Bishop Olmsted. Back then, the Bishop of Phoenix, now the Bishop Emeritus of the diocese. And we ran into this concept of civic leadership development. This is a concept that is very well developed around the United States, really since the 70s. There's such a thing as the National Association of Leadership Programs. It has about 200 members, and these members are large nonprofit organizations. So when we discovered civic leadership development in the secular world, in the non-faith-based world, we thought, gosh, this is a good thing, but we could do it better because we can add the faith component, what is missing, what we thought was missing from the leadership piece. So we founded Tepeyac Leadership Initiative. That's the diocesan program that then became its own 501c3, Tepeyac Leadership Inc. And now we've gone global, and what we're doing is we're forming lay Catholics, that is Catholics who are not priests or nuns or bishops, lay Catholics in the world. We're forming them to become influential leaders in their own communities, in their own spaces, around the world. In every continent, we have now Tepeyac leaders. So it's a mission that you might tell I'm very passionate about.
Absolutely. And I thank you for that. I'm someone who I've been a Eucharistic minister. Didn't quite work out with that one, so I moved. I was a confirmation minister, and I think it's just great to be more and more things so that we can remain active as Catholics and be out there, better serving our communities.
Absolutely, friends. You give me a perfect example of what we're trying to do. You see, Eric, for the most part, when lay Catholics think of being Catholic leaders, their first thought is to do what you were doing, being a Eucharistic minister, getting involved in the parish or at the diocese. And those are good things. They're desired by the church. We need them. But our conversation, it's got something more to do with influencing the world outside of the church, going to every space of secular life. And you gentlemen are doing just that right now. You have a podcast that is all over the place because you don't necessarily always need to talk about religion to influence the secular world with Christian values.
And that's something I'm a big fan of Bishop Barron and what he teaches us as Catholics. We're evangelizers from the time that we're baptized, and that's our job. And not all of us are going to be a Joan of Arc, not all of us are going to be a Flannery O'Connor, but we all have it within our ability to just lead by example as being just good Christians.
100%, Eric.
And I bring up Bishop Barron because and I want to see how Tepeyac ties in with this. What I love about Bishop Barron, he's the social media priest, or I'm sorry, the social media bishop. And how do you go about using social media with Tepeyac?
So we try to leverage it as much as we can. And these days, I can say that, probably 90% of our activity starts on LinkedIn. That's our preferred social media because we try to reach and serve lay Catholic professionals in the professional world, in the career world, young, old, in every stage of their career and from every field. Nurses, accountants, teachers, business people, they all go through our training. And so LinkedIn is our preferred, and we are very active. You can find our Tepeyac leadership account there, my own account, very active there. We do live streams, all kinds of things that we share. But social media today is a big part of the public square. So we must bring the good news of the church, the gospel. We must bring it to social media. We definitely leverage social media in the work that we do. Absolutely.
Love that. I love it. And one thing that with Bishop Barron, and I keep coming back to him because he's been such a positive influence on me since I was introduced to him 3 years ago by a friend of mine back in LA, a fellow Catholic, is his tapping into the pop culture. And how do you see the role of pop culture, what good, the good, bad, and all the things in between, in terms of reaching a larger audience as Christians?
Eric, we must absolutely tap into the culture, but not just tap into the culture. We must be the originators of the culture. And there was a time when it was the Catholic Church where the culture was originating, all of the culture.
Sure.
Well, there was a time when we didn't have media, we didn't have television, film, and the most beautiful pieces of art, music, everything, the literary world, everything was influenced by Christianity, right? The best pieces of art come from the Renaissance, I think. So we were the culture. We were the dominant culture. There is no reason why Catholics today, no matter what they do, cannot have a strong presence and influence in whatever space they occupy. Certainly, if it's related to the culture, pop culture, whatever culture, right? Academia, we have to be ultimately, and this is our mission, Eric, Jim. Our mission is to form, prepare, equip, and send off lay Catholic professionals so that they can sit at every table where decisions are made.
And Jim, I kind of want to pass this over to you now, since you're our movie guru here, and just in terms of I wanted to Sound of Freedom and movies like that, the Christian-based films. Anything that you would have for Cristofer in that regard, movie-wise?
Yeah, just there's definitely been a feeling that films have become a lot more secular over the last few decades. Some of them are even more hostile to the idea of faith, to the church. Do you see their I guess in the coming up in the future, are you seeing that the culture taking a turn for the better or the worse as far as kind of the attitude toward faith and toward the church in general?
Well, what I see in the culture, unfortunately, is division, and there's sort of two camps, right? I mean, Hollywood is very secular, and there's definitely a big chunk of Hollywood and entertainment that is developing content that is anti-Christian, not necessarily attacking Christian, just simply because of the values that they portray, which are really anti-values. Just merely because of that, the content is anti-Christian because of what they're promoting, even if they're not attacking the faith or people of faith. I think that is probably the most predominant piece that makes the content out there into the platforms. However, I have hope. I am a hopeless optimist, and I have hope because I actually know people and groups that are working hard to sanctify Hollywood. They're working very hard to put together productions, films, all kinds of content out there that will convey a not necessarily a Christian message, because I think that, and they understand, you can be more effective influencing society and maybe bringing people closer to the truth, closer to God, when you have a more subtle message, right? Maybe instead of putting an outright Christian film that sometimes can be a little cheesy, you have an interesting plot where the characters make some important, crucial moral or ethical decisions. And that's how you're influencing people, by learning from the example of this very interesting character, right? So this is how I think you can be more effective. And I know there are people that are working in the area of animation, children films that can be more positive, and or other kinds of films. Or, of course, the example that you give us with Sound of Freedom is a beautiful example. And the same people that put together that film had to do with other good works, and they recently put out Cabrini, which is a beautiful story. And you think about it, Cabrini is, I don't know if you watched the film, is a film that people should embrace because it has to do with American history, with the history of the first waves of immigrants in the United States. Italians should love that film. It's all about your heritage. And Catholics, we are there. We're in the story, in between the lines. It's also about the faith. So I think that those are the stories that are really smart about how they convey the values they want to convey without making it all about just religion. Because, ultimately people go to the movies because they want to entertain themselves. So we got to be smart about how we do it.
Yeah, as a movie fan, there's a lot of so-called Christian cinema and TV that I don't really care for, because it feels more like pandering and it's not very well made. But at the same time, you have some really talented filmmakers. You have the Scorseses and Mel Gibsons and Jim Caviezel's and people that are making really good stories, but they're really focused on storytelling first, and their values are kind of infused in those stories. And I'd like to see a lot more of that from Hollywood, but I feel like that a lot of those voices are not being heard. So
That is definitely the case.
So yeah, like as you say, there's a lot of talented people. It's just there's certain cultural gatekeepers that need to see the value in them. So,
but we can change that, and we should change it by supporting those types of films for sure.
Well, one thing I did like was when I was still working at movie theater, was on the days where The Chosen, because they did the big event before it was on TV, they had the premieres in the theaters, and they were packed. So the audiences are there, and that's more of like it's less of a subtle message, but it's there. But like both of you have said, just getting those values infused into the story. That's why like Sound of Freedom did so well. And whether it's whatever messages is, I don't think anyone wants. We looked at the woke movement. No one wants to be lectured to. They want to be like you said, Cristofer. They want to be entertained.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that's coming out more and more. As filmmakers, Hollywood people are getting more refined with things. And I think the pendulum's swinging in the right direction. At least I hope it is.
Media must be an important tool for evangelizing, bringing people closer to the truth, closer to the faith. You gentlemen are using media to get a positive message. Whatever you're talking about in your podcast, you are always infusing it with your own Christian values. And that's a wonderful thing, right? You don't need to lecture to people, like you said. We started this series. It's called the Tepeyac Leadership Series, and we dedicated the first one to Bishop Thomas.
Get that up. Yeah, let people see it.
Put it in there. There it is.
Love it. Yes.
The first one is dedicated to Bishop Thomas Olmsted, now the Bishop Emeritus of Phoenix. So this is a book. It's an interview style book. We in the book, the reader goes, and the idea is that the reader experiences sort of puts him or herself into the place of the person that's sitting with Bishop Olmsted and having a lovely conversation, maybe over a cup of coffee. And so we talk with Bishop Olmsted about life, faith, and leadership, which is really the space that we occupy at Tepeyac Leadership. It's a very inspiring book. We dedicate it to him, who is the founder of our apostolate, and we hope to inspire other people. The book is available on Amazon, and it really is a way for us to say thank to him for all his support and inspiration on the work that we have been doing. I hope that you gentlemen, maybe you have had a chance to go through it already, to read it.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, I really enjoyed the conversational angle of it. I think it works so much better than just you read just statements, and it's more like encyclopedic learning. It's so much better the way that you two handled that. And I can't say enough great things about it. And we're definitely going to be sharing the link to it where you can pick that book up, because it was just conversational and just it helps you learn better that way.
Thank you so much, Eric.
And one thing that was brought up within the book, you were talking to the bishop about, just the challenges that we face in such a secular world now. And he went back to the beginnings of the church, the first 3 centuries of the church. And when we think how hard it is now up against social media, not just social media, but just the culture in general. But that was a time where in the Christian faith where everybody was against it. They were hostily so. And so I do you just springboarding off what you guys talked about in the book, and definitely pick up the book, folks. We'll be sharing the information for that. But where do you see we are? I mean, how difficult do you see it now in comparison to how they had it back in the beginnings of our faith?
I think that if I remember correctly, Bishop's point was, I asked him, should we look to the Middle Ages for an example or of a Christendom that we could aspire to build up again, because Christendom no longer is. We are standing in the ruins of Christendom. And that is Christian civilization, not the church. The church will always be standing as Christ promised. But Bishop Olmsted's question was, I don't necessarily think that that will be the best example to look at, but I would prefer to look at the early Christians, he said. The early Christians, and truly, he's so wise. They are the inspiration, right? The early Christians, and if you think about the very beginning, the 12 apostles, and then the others that surrounded them, it was just a very small group of people that looked at the Roman Empire and said, let's do it. Let's do this, guys. They didn't have the infrastructure that we have today. They didn't have Catholic universities, schools, hospitals. The Vatican was not in place, right? They didn't have anything other than the Holy Spirit. They had the most important thing, and the faith and the courage to go out. But how did they do it? How did they do it? This is something that we touch on very often during our activities, the different platforms that we have. They basically, whatever it is that they were doing, whether they were a tent maker or a carpenter, whatever their profession or career was, they did it well. They did it striving for perfection. They poured their love into the job that they were doing. Christians, the early Christians, they did their work with love, striving for perfection, and they offered it up to God. Every day was an offering of their work. So whatever it is that they were doing, it was their altar. And this is something that a lot of lay people don't understand, that we're called to be kings, prophets, and priests. What does that mean, that we are called to be king, prophets, and priests? Well, we are kings because we're supposed to lead others to Christ. We're prophets every time we witness to the faith. That's what we're doing right now, being prophets. And how are we priests? How are the lay people priests? Well, the way that we're priests is by offering up our ordinary lives and our ordinary work every day, daily. So whatever it is that you do, imagine if you're a surgeon, if you're an Uber driver, if you're an architect, and you're thinking of your drawing table, that is your altar. And every time you start your job, you offer it up to God and you pour your love into that. And that's how the early Christians became esteemed members of their society, because they had a good reputation for ethics, for being principled people that you could trust, that were good on their word, and they had such a solidarity among themselves. They became esteemed members of their society. People began to look up to them. They became influential, so they became leaders. That's what we're trying to get back to. It's not about necessarily becoming the CEO of a corporation or running for president of the United States, although for some people that will be the calling. But a mom at home, a teacher at school, they can be leaders. They can touch other lives. They can bring about greatness. They can accomplish great things by bringing out the greatness in others. That's being a leader.
Love that. And until you said it, I never thought about the odds. After Jesus rose, there's 11 guys against, and I won't say against, 11 guys going out into the whole wide world. And here we are now.
That's right.
Yet, no offense to the Spartans, that was 300. We have far fewer numbers, 11.
That's why Acts is one of my favorite books of the Bible. It's so fascinating how the small group of guys went out and just built something that is still standing today. It's amazing.
It is fascinating, Jim. I agree with you. You can almost, I can see it. I can see it as the book tells the story of the disciples. Yes.
And I want to get into more of the specifics with the Tepeyac leadership. Tell people, just what the program entails and just how they can get involved.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eric. I know you've been sharing our website. That's the TLI program website. TLIprogram.org is the website. That's what we have been doing for the past 8 years. We have a 5-month program that we run in the spring, and it's really our flagship program. Is the most in-depth formation platform that we have, the TLI program. Hopefully your audience will go and check it out. We're going to be taking applications October 1st for the 2025 cohort. Everybody's invited to check it out, apply, and experience the TLI program. However, what we have just around the corner and that we're more focused on right now at our organization is our annual conference. Maybe some people are not ready to go into the 5-month, 18-week program yet, but they could attend a conference, and this is called the Hour of the Laity. I think that the title may be self-explanatory. We think the times that we live in just are crying out for more committed, faithful lay Catholic leadership in all areas of civil society. And this is why we have a conference. This is year 2 of the conference. Last year, we maxed capacity in the venue, and we're going to go out and do it all over with God's grace. And it was a terrific event, wonderful speakers. And the most important thing is that we are providing at the conference resources, formation, fellowship, and connections, and we're equipping people and sending them back off into the world so that they can influence society with the values of the gospel. Whether they are in education, healthcare, business, government, doesn't matter, entertainment, we must do this. We must influence the world with the values of the gospel. We must create a fertile ground. We, the laity, must create a fertile ground so that our beloved priests and bishops can go and evangelize.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to diving more into this, and who knows what 2025 will bring for me. And hopefully see if I can't make the conference. Because right now I look, as we're recording this, folks, it's still, the Olympics are still going on, but it still stings, that opening ceremony, and just the slap in the face to Christianity, and which is most of the world. And and some friends of mine and I, some fellow believers, a couple of them were like, I'm not even watching the Olympics. Forget it. They've showed us what they think of us. I'm not even going to pay them any, never mind. So until we are able to be equipped, until we have the fortitude to just say, you know what, this is how you think of us? Okay.
100%. And this is what our conference is about. Our program is in the spring. Our conference is November 7th to the 9th at Christ Cathedral in Orange County. And what this is about is showing people practical ways to influence society. This is about influencing society. This is about joining your homeowners association, parent-teacher association, maybe running for office at the public school district if you can. Start a Bible study. Do something. God has given us resources. God has given us gifts. They're not there to be wasted. You two gentlemen are putting your gifts to work by putting together this podcast that reaches so many people. That's using your gifts. That's doing something. And that's what we're trying to inspire people to do.
I'm humbled by that. You guys are doing the heavy lifting. I just do what I can to help spread the word in that regard and get as involved as I can after that. But it's, again, Cristofer Pereyra, thank you so much for joining us here on All Over the Place. And before we let you go, any other things that you would like to let our listeners and our viewers know?
I would just invite your viewers to go to thlconference.org, thlconference.org. The conference is around the corner. We'd love for them to attend and experience it themselves.
In post-production, that will definitely be laid down. People are going to know about that and on all the social media blasts that we send out. So, but be sure you check out that site, folks, which is running along the ticker now. And Cristofer Pereyra, thank you so much again. God bless for all that you're doing, and look forward to hopefully meeting you down the line.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless.
Okay. All right, folks, you've been listening or watching All Over the Place, and thanks again so much. Be sure you share with at least one. Now, I'm going to do it. It's a bigger challenge today. Share with 11 people today. Be the evangelizers.
Nice.
Get the word out there.
Funsanity never ends.